Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As you guys can tell by the title, today I'm going to be doing a soft talk, just talking about protecting my peace and protecting and trusting my inner circle. So the last time I posted a video, the video was about the sexualization of breastfeeding, and I was still dealing with summer school and things like that. I had just finished summer school, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so now I'm officially out of the cloud of summer school. I'm done, I'm focusing on other things. So now I can actually really start enjoying my summer. So lately I have been competing. I have been, like doing things for myself, a little bit less of going out, but more so focusing on competing because competing takes a lot of energy and then you need, a couple of days to get back and to let your body rest. Also, peep my fan. And, what else? Yeah, so you need a couple days to really set back, to prepare yourself, to really get your body to where you want it to be for you to compete. So competing is like an entire process, and it's not like a one day thing. Or I'm competing one day, that's it. No. Just also, by the way, this is a natural look that I made for my face. Honestly, I've been talking about lashes with no makeup type of look for some time, but I've never actually done it. I wanted to go for the video so you guys can see like all my dark spots, but it's improved in the last couple months. I love my natural face. I feel like it's really improved. I've really worked on it, and I did some lashes. But like I said, I've been competing. I've been really in the moment mentally of competing, preparing my body physically, preparing myself mentally, really trying to be there for myself while I compete. So it's been a whole process. And yeah, so I've been really focusing on the competing and also just trying to learn how to protect my peace and protect my personal close circle. So essentially, you guys know that I switched to club in the summer for track, and switching to club for the second time in the outdoor season was honestly because the first time I switched to club was last year, my outdoor season. This is the second year. Um, of my outdoor season, I switched to club, and switching to club honestly is an entire process because you need to know which new coach you're gonna, especially for me who doesn't have prior background to the sport, like prior high school background to the sport. It was like a whole new process because I don't have connections and I don't know people. So getting to know a coach and getting in the process, starting a new training, starting a new workouts. Handling all of these things with a new club coach is a lot, you know. So I started training with this coach, and honestly, it was a new process for me because obviously, like, as you guys know, as somebody who um, doesn't have any background in the sport, like, I'm still getting used to workouts. I'm still getting used to different things that other people who do have that background may be used to. For example, like some workouts that I can find really, really difficult. Somebody who has like 5 years, 3, 4 years over me is, it's a standard workout for them. Getting used to it. So I got a lot of heavy load, heavy back-to-back workouts that I wasn't used to. So for my body, it was really hard for me to take in that shock. But I feel like since, I'm so early, my body was adapting really, really quick. And honestly, one of the things this summer that I had to learn is to really like set my boundaries straight. I just feel like a lot of the times it's easy to talk about the boundaries that you have and the boundaries that you don't like people to step over them. But sometimes when your boundaries do get tested, and sometimes when it is a figure of authority who is testing those boundaries, whether it's conscious or not, it becomes really difficult to really set those boundaries because we're scared of stepping on their boundaries back, or like burning a bridge that may be important. Like in the world of coaching, like having connections to these coaches could be really useful in the long term. Or whether depending case on case, sometimes it may be a teacher, like burning these bridges that may be important. It becomes really hard to speak up about the boundaries that you feel like are not only driving your body, but maybe your mental state into a wall. And for me, I really had to learn how to do that because I just feel like I was constantly doing these really, 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 really hard workouts without a break. And it was all of these expectations, and you have to do this and you have to do that. But I just feel like in terms of reciprocity, it wasn't really given for me. And obviously, starting my season, I did something I never did before. I ran my first ever 400 meters. I had never ran a 400 meters before, and obviously, my body, like I said, was going through all of these changes and going through having to get used to all these workouts and putting myself through these workouts and never really getting a break or never really feeling like I had a space or comfortability to speak up about having a break. I went into that 400 meters completely tired. I went completely sore. I went exhausted, and I was at that meet, and the person who you're supposed to, the coaching support system that you feel like you're supposed to get as an athlete wasn't there. So being there by myself was really mentally hard for me. But once I got to that place where it's kind of like, okay, I can navigate these meets without someone who's supposed to build that bridge, supposed to build that coaching support for me. That person is not there when it matters. I can keep going without them. It's kind of that thing where it becomes like when the person who is supposed to be there for you for something doesn't show up when they're supposed to, you start getting used to it. And that person is essentially teaching you how to navigate these spaces or these systems without them. And that's kind of how it felt for me. It felt for me, and I'm kind of like, I know that's something I'm trying to work on, but I'm somebody who just has a very low amount of tolerance. So for me, it really takes one opportunity, or it takes one time to show me for me to start being able to tell myself that I can navigate these spaces without the support that I'm supposed to get. I'm going to create my own support. So I ran my first 400 meters, and mentally for me, it was really challenging because I had never run a 400. I had never paced a 400. I was sore. My body was not tapered. If you do track or if you do sports, you know what a taper is. Essentially, I'll compare it to sharpening an athlete. A couple weeks before they start, racing, or they get into their competition schedule, that would essentially just be sharpening that athlete, reducing the volume, reducing the load, and letting the athlete kind of absorb all of the work you put into them. Essentially, being able to use the fitness that they've built all these months for them to perform at the top. And I didn't get the opportunity to get tapered because obviously being afraid or not feeling like I have a space to speak about my boundaries. So I ran that 400, and after I finished, I was proud of myself. I didn't love the time that I ran, but I told myself not to be too harsh because there's a lot of different factors and there's a lot of different things that, did come into play. Not being tapered, not being ready, being sore, being extremely tired, carrying these months of fatigue, and not having the support system that I'm supposed to be provided from a coach, really, really affected me in different ways. And then I went back to my events. I'm a short sprinter, so I do run the 100 and the 200. So I ran up my 100 the week after, and I was still carrying that fatigue. That's why the taper needs to be done a couple weeks before, because, it's bleeds into the athlete's season. Nevertheless, I ran, it was good. It was okay. It was an opener. It wasn't what I wanted, but I, did my best, and I showed up for myself even when, the expectation of somebody who's supposed to show up for you doesn't. And we act like an expectation. I feel like we act like an expectation is supposed to be a luxury, but an expectation is the bare minimum of what that person is supposed to do. For example, a teacher showing up to class to teach its students. These students do expect that professor or that teacher to show up for them to teach them that class, but that expectation does not become a luxury. That expectation is the bare minimum. It's what that teacher is supposed to do. That teacher is supposed to come every day to class and show up for their students, and it's an expectation. It's not a luxury. It's not a privilege of that teacher. It doesn't become a privilege for these students. That being said, if there is an expectation for me, expecting a coaching support or system to be there for me, just because I have that expectation does not mean it becomes a luxury. It is something that is supposed to be there exactly the same way I am expected to show up to all my workouts, to show up to all my practices, So dealing with that mentally was really taxing because it's just extra stress added on top of already the stress of competing, the stress of having time goals, that you want to hit, the stress of opening where you don't necessarily, you're not necessarily like, I'm not necessarily like proud, or I don't feel like I'm on the right track. Sometimes you're on the right track, but it's such a messy track and it's such a messy path that it really makes us feel like, we're not, like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I'm not in the direction that I'm supposed to be taking. But sometimes for you to be able to shine your brightest days and to be able to come out and have your best running times or your best competition performances, sometimes you need to go through several days of mud and so having to deal with that mentally and having to step up and speak about the boundaries that I feel like were crossed and the boundaries that I feel like my body cannot take anymore was a bit hard for me. And I feel like it even becomes harder when these boundaries are kind of shut down and when speaking up becomes more like a pushing back, because speaking about your boundaries is not negotiating, it's not asking, it's just me letting the person know, hey, I felt some type of way about this, and I came in with a lot of calmness. I came in trying to not escalate the situation and trying to protect my peace. And one of the things, like I said, I did mention that I'm somebody with the very, very low tolerance, and I'm also somebody who loves protecting my peace. So even if it's a support system or a coaching system that I do think that every athlete is entitled to, if I know that it's kind of treated as a luxury, or you only get it if you do certain thing, or you only get it when I feel like you deserve it, I will step back, not only step back, but I will also find support within myself. I know that at the end of the day, I can do what I'm destined to do as long as I have God with me. If you're not religious, take it as you want. Like, if you're spiritual or if you just don't believe in a God. But me personally, I know that I can do what I'm destined to do as long as I have God. So, being told, little things that maybe shouldn't come across a certain way, but are received a certain way, like, it could be a bit harsh, it could be a little, and it's a thing to talk about protecting your peace from friends who could be toxic, or from different partners who can really, really disrupt that peaceful bubble that you create for yourself. But it's another thing to talk about protecting your peace when it's, like I said, an authority, like a figure of authority. It becomes really, it's like walking around eggshells. It becomes very scary. It becomes very like, how do I proceed in such a way? And I told myself that I would do a disservice for myself if I kept quiet and just waited and kept taking all of this brutal work on my body, and kept taking all of these workouts that just end up destroying me. Um, and one thing that I really appreciate in this whole thing is the fact that I'm really in tune with my body. Like, I was able to feel and I was able to tell when my body had had enough. Like, I came to practices always exhausted, always tired, and I was being told, you're not recovering well, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you're not, your endurance is low, your recovery is low, all these things that make me think, you're the issue, you know. But when I took a step back and I looked at the way my body was really reacting, like, I was constantly exhausted. I was always exhausted. I knew that something was wrong and that I need to speak up about a few things. A couple of things had to be addressed. And another thing that also shows me that it's good to protect my peace and that it was good for me to speak up is when the reaction of me speaking up about my boundaries becomes an issue. It becomes an issue of it becomes an issue of it being as if like I'm imposing myself. Um, I've never done that. If speaking about the boundaries and speaking about the way I feel and the way things were done means that I'm imposing myself, I don't know. Like I said, like, I don't think I was given a comfortable space to really come forward and speak about, hey, my body feels this way. Hey, you know, and to support myself on that point, I did many times speak about, like, my body feeling some way, and you know, it's just really hard navigating new things in a new season in a new track environment when there's a lot of things that are being done and there's a lot of ways that I'm feeling like I'm feeling really exhausted and I'm feeling, there's a lot of couple things that I'm feeling that aren't allowing me to thrive in my environment. And obviously on top of that, not having a coaching support or system in the competitions that I'm supposed to compete at also really kind of like, you know, um, affected me more. But by all means, this is not to bash or anything. This is just for me to speak up about the way I felt and the way I chose to protect my boundaries. And yeah, like navigating these systems, navigating this alone has really taught me a lot. And naturally, normally, I would just quit. I would just give up. I'd just be like, I'm done for the summer. I'm sitting down the rest of the season. I'm done. It's too much for me. I can't go through this. I don't deserve to go through this. But honestly, for me, lately, I've been really pumped. I've been so excited for my meets. Like, I still show up to my meets. I still run. I don't like the times, but I still run it and I still prepare for my next competition. I still give 100% of myself because I am hungry for these goals. And I just know that as long as I'm with God, there is no human that can try to do anything to hurt me and will succeed. And one thing I do want to say is I also told myself, like, even if I do get to a point where I just don't achieve those goals, I want to tell myself that I gave 101% of every single thing that I had in the tank to achieve these goals. I want to give 100% of everything that I could give, to hit my goals. And yeah, I'm still, navigating this, but now I'm looking at the bright side. I stopped looking at this and that because I've already addressed a couple things and they've been really taken the wrong way. So I'm just navigating my season. I'm going to my meets. I'm looking at the bright side of things. Like I have my sisters coming to my meets. I have my friends coming, my friends that are coming to the upcoming meets that I plan on running. I have these goals on the table. I've been training. I've been getting stronger. Like the times, it takes a little bit of time for my times to catch up with the fatigue I've been carrying, but I'm feeling a bit better. I'm not as tired anymore. Um, I am, getting into a better mental space for myself. I don't know where I was. Somebody came in the room, but I did say that I've learned to navigate these spaces and have a more positive mindset instead of focusing on the negative. The negative will strip away the joy that you're supposed to have. The negative will steal the opportunities that you deserve. I've kind of like I came to terms with the fact that like when you strive for yourself, you strive for opportunities for yourself. There's always going to be things, there might be people, there's going to be things that happen in the moment that come across as trying to kind of like ruin your self-esteem, ruin your opportunities, ruin the joy that you have for yourself. But I'm not letting it happen because I know how it feels to have a season stolen from you. I know how it feels to have all of the tools. You have the talent, you have the grit, you have the hunger, and you're presenting it, and you still have, like you have a system, you have a figure of authority that just it's not enough for them. They will strip away your season. You will strip away your opportunities from you. It happened to me last year, where I was training, and I was basically going from coaches to coaches because in the summer I had left the varsity environment and going into these new environments, these coaches, were inconsistent. They weren't showing up to practice. They weren't dedicated. They didn't really care. They didn't really know what they were doing. And obviously, I watched my season fly by me, and obviously being in that moment, less than a year into the sport, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I kind of just took it. But now that I have more history in the sport and I have more background and I know how to navigate, and I'm also not afraid to ask for help. Last year, when I would go through something I thought I could figure out on my own, like I never reached out for help. And sometimes, despite how independent I may be, or despite how independent I do come across as, or I try to come across as, it's also really, I've learned that it's also very important to ask for help when now help is needed. When I started dealing with these things with this new club, I told my sisters everything. I'm telling my sisters, I'm looking for solutions. I'm not afraid to ask my teammates for help. I'm not afraid to reach out to teammates. I'm also not afraid to talk to people who I feel safe around. Talk to people, express myself, because keeping all of these emotions bottled up is just a recipe for disaster. All this stress, all this panic, and then going to the track, and then you're nervous, and then it's just a recipe for an injury. So I'm not afraid to do that. I'm not afraid to speak up, and I'm also not afraid to ask for help when help is needed. You know, and look out the solutions, not take impulsive decisions. My first instinct when this happened was just like quit and go independent. But I did also recognize that there are some tools that I do need. There are some tools that are needed within that environment, that I need to reach out to. I need to reach out to that person of authority because these tools are needed. You know. But yeah, I'm not afraid to take in control the things that I'm meant to take in control instead of just stalling and crying. So yeah, I'm looking at it from a positive lens. Like, it's really built me, and I still choose to protect my peace. That's the number one thing that comes. That's the number one thing in my list. It's the number one thing that I will always abide by, is protecting my peace despite who it is. So yeah, I've been navigating this, and honestly, this season, like, I can say that obviously, like, I'm mentally really stressed about the time that I'm running because I feel like it's not up to standard, but I'm also giving myself some grace, like, you're still not fully tapered, you're still shedding some fatigue that you've been carrying from like 3 to 4 months of just training, like you've been going to a boot camp, like you're about to go to the military, and I'm still, trying to navigate this to myself. I'm still under 2 years in the sport, so I'm still giving myself some grace while still keeping my expectations realistic. And I'm telling myself that it's part of the process. Like, I have literally like a full season left. I have about 3 races under my belt right now. I have another one upcoming on Tuesday. I have literally a big competition coming, provincials, and then I have 3 races after that. Like, I literally have the rest of the season to keep improving and to keep running better times, and to keep running these times with my body fully ready and primed to run them. I will obviously keep you guys updated about my season, how everything goes, but I have not given up. I'm not done yet. Like, I have not given up. Usually by this stage, I told you guys, I would have left, I would have quit, there's no more hope. But I'm just happy that I'm starting to see more positive lens and stop seeing everything under a negative light, because that will just destroy you. It will destroy your mental, and it's also very mentally draining to always see the worst out of every single situation. So despite the fact that this happened, I got unlucky once again this summer. I've not given up. I'm not done. I'm actually really pumped. Like, the idea of running these races is so exciting for me. But like I said, like, trusting myself, putting my peace first, my boundaries first, even though it was really hard for me to come to terms that my boundaries are being disrespected and I need to speak up about it. And if I wait longer, I'm going to keep that stress and all of these emotions bottled up. And it's going to be expressed, whether I like it or not, through resentment. So speaking up about my boundaries that were stepped over many, many times, coming to terms with that, and being open for help all the time, always. I'm not afraid to admit that I need, when help is needed, I will reach out for help. But yeah, I've been pumped. I've been happy. I have my next race on Tuesday. I excited. This bottle that I got it from, it's like a store called Home Hardware at Parkway Mall, which is a mall that is literally 5 minutes away from where I live. And they sold these for like $10. They usually sell these for like $30 to $40, but I got lucky. But anyways, this is what I've been saying. Like, mentally, I've been in a really good space, like coming to these meets alone, with no coaching support, but still running these races and giving 100% of what I have in the tank. And, being happy, finding myself mentally in the sport, situating myself that not everything is going to be okay all the time. Like sometimes not all the variables that you think you want to control are going to be how they are, and you still have to show up for yourself because that's what matters the most. Like sometimes you think of a season, like I came thinking of the season like I'm going to have a great coach, I'm going to have a great support system, I'm going to have a great coaching system, I'm going to have like perfect training, I'm going to come in this and I'm going to run these times and I'm going to be faster every time. But sometimes, something bursts your bubble, and not every situation, not every variable that you thought would be perfect in your head is perfect. Things come along. Like for example, for that race that I ran Saturday, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna run this time because I'm getting stronger and I got more rest. But the wind was negative, so my time was actually slower than what I ran in my opener because the time was negative. But if we take out and factor the negative time, I would have probably ran a faster time, right? But in my mind, the wind being negative wasn't, a factor. It wasn't a variable that could happen. It was just like, I'm going to run faster because I got more rest and I'm going to be better, right? But, we had a headwind that day. I was explosive out of the blocks, but the time wasn't faster, right? Or sometimes, I come in and I'm just like, okay, like I've been tired, I'm injured, I'm this, I'm that. I'm probably going to run slower and then you PB. And then it's just like, oh, like when I ran my PB of last year for my 100 meters, I hadn't trained consistently in a month. My lower back pain was at its worst. I had a bit of hips pain, and I ran my fastest time ever that I haven't touched this year, by the way. So sometimes we try to have control of every single variable. We think we're in control of our story. We think we're in control of our destiny. We think we can put things in place for things that happen a certain way, but sometimes things are going to happen. Your goals or your things that you aspire for them to happen are going to happen, but they're not going to happen the way you plan for them to happen. Like sometimes things are going to be upside down, and then you're going to have the best race or the best, performance of your entire life. Like I said, like I thought this was going to be perfect. I'm just going to run faster, but there's a lot of things that I thought were going to happen or not. So, for me, it's just putting everything in the hands of God and just keep doing me, keep being happy, keep being positive, keep running fast. And yeah, I'm going to keep you guys updated on my season. I'm also going to vlog my provincials competition. I'm going to make it like a long, deep talk, I'm unfiltered vlog of me competing, me preparing for competition, and just me being in the space of competing, because I've been talking about competing and how I feel mentally when I compete and things like that. I've talked about since I started this channel, but I've never showed you guys how it is. So I'm going to be vlogging that. I should be traveling alone. I'm going to talk to you guys about all of the expenses, everything. I'm going to give you guys all of the unfiltered truth about that competition. I'm so excited for it. I'm so pumped. I can't wait. But yeah, honestly, this week I should start enjoying my summer, because this week I compete once and then I don't compete until provincials, which is like a week and a half. So I should be, going out and doing my things. But yeah, this is just it. Like, to conclude this video, I just wanted to say, like, sometimes it's very, very scary when you come across a person or you're in an environment where your boundaries are very obviously being stepped and trampled on. And usually the way to follow, or whatever society or whatever your parents might have taught you, is just like deal with it until it gets better. But the more you deal with it, the worse it gets. And sometimes you have to come to a point where you have to speak about your boundaries. You have to speak up. And if speaking up about your boundaries means protecting your body, protecting your mental health, but burn that bridge. But at least you can walk out of this environment flowing fully well that you protected your mental and you protected yourself. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in another lifetime. Also, I want to talk about my hair. I did my hair myself. The last vlog, you guys didn't see my hair. This hair took me about 6 hours. I basically did a boho. It's very tangled right now, but I did a boho Marley twist. I've done Marley twist back in the summer. Marley twist is one of the most protective hairstyles I've ever done. It's really great. It lasts long. It's very much a winter hairstyle, though, I must say. It keeps you warm, but okay, I'll call it a day. I've been talking so much, but see ya.